First of all, I think your analysis was very straight line. History doesn't run in a straight line.
Kid, you cannot tell your neighbor he is stealing ducks when you are stealing funds.
As High Commissioner, I was wrong. As Charandas Prasad, I reacted naturally how any person would have.
I did not come here for that kind of abuse. I did not come here for that kind of abuse. If you're going to go down that road, I'll walk off.
But it's all okay once they're talking. If they were talking, I could not have been here today.
You got ADHD.
I got nothing.
Calm down.
I think I've done enough in terms of taking our team out of trouble from losing.
Tomorrow, Taylor. That's good. I'm reading the script now, and the first person that comes to my mind to play a detective,
Yes,
but
the
an
Chinese
erratic
Mikhail
detective, Mikhail Rodriguez.
Why an African slap an Indian? Why a man and slap a woman? Look, how you deal with that? You deal with that.
We must encourage platforms like this because it brings together different people and allows for discussions to take place in our country on a multiplicity of fundamental issues.
You apologizing for something you think I did is wrong. I don't want you to do that, and you should not have done that. Hello there, welcome to the Freddie Kissoon show. My co-host Akash Persaud is unable to make it. Wherever you are, good morning, good night, good afternoon. We have in our studio this evening three persons who are three comrades. They have known each other very well, interacted with each other at the leadership level of the Alliance for Change. Our topic this evening is the shape future of the AFC under Nigel Hughes' leadership, and by implication, what politics is to follow from that configuration. To discuss Nigel Hughes' leadership of the AFC and politics are three persons who know the AFC very well or knew the AFC very well as any other AFC person, and all three have interacted very intimately with Nigel Hughes. Our guests this evening alphabetically is CHARRANDASS Persaud, LEONARD Craig, and GERHARD RAMSAROOP. You can't want three more knowledgeable persons from 2005 to 2015 to talk about the AFC and Nigel Hughes. So we start alphabetically and go with CHARRANDASS Persaud. Charan, you must know it's all over the news. Nigel Hughes contested the leadership of AFC and won it. He's in the papers today, Monday, saying that the AFC will embark on a meeting and grounding process with people, and there's a photograph of him meeting people by the Starbucks area. What are the likely outcome of a Nigel Hughes leadership of the AFC? And then after we have the other presentations, we'll take that question onto the national scene.
Freddie, let me first say good evening or good morning, good afternoon to the viewers and the listeners out there. I am indeed extremely excited about being here for this particular reason. The discussion of the AFC with the new leadership under Nigel Hughes. Freddie, I will say it bluntly. I don't care who leads the AFC. I don't care what reputation this individual may have or is expected to have. The AFC is dead. And I said it earlier, if the AFC gets even one seat in the next election, that to me will be one hell of an achievement for them, because they have done so much to destroy the AFC. And when I say they, I'm not going to name anybody at this stage, but later on I can give you names. The AFC has no chance of resurrection. And if they believe that some of them are Hindus, they can come back to reincarnation or whatever they think that can make them come back. In my view, the AFC is beyond coming back as a party, a political party. So I don't care who the leader is. Nigel Hughes, whoever else they want to put, they are doing nothing. They have done nothing for the people, and they can't do anything to resurrect their own goddamn self.
This is your water. Leonard, people, the history of the world is that at a particular point in the working out of the dialectic, someone can come and shape the dialectic. Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, Vladimir Lenin, Fidel Castro, you name them. You just name them. Can a leader make a difference?
And you're saying Nigel is one such person?
I'm asking you. I'm asking if that applies to him.
Look, I think the AFC support in Guyana has eroded a lot. But I do not share the sentiments of Charan in the sense that I still would not take AFC for granted. And here's the reason why. Because AFC still has a national network. They still have representatives in Region 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that are still somewhat active, maybe not as active as they used to be. And that kind of activism do count for something. They may not pull as many votes as they did, but they're going to pick up a 5-year, 4-year, 3-year throughout the country. And in our PR system, that might add up to be a few seats. And if, well, CHARRANDASS did not say his definition for dead as, to use his term, but certainly the support for AFC has eroded and has eroded very far. I believe also that Nigel Hughes' injection, as it is now, we do not know if that will prevail into next year and into the election, but as of now, morale around the people who support the AFC is a bit high. And they feel some sense of optimism. Whether that will in itself will translate into votes, I don't know. But the short answer basically is no, because votes come from hard work on the ground among the people, the trust and these things that people have for you. And AFC's trust has been eroded even among some of their strongest supporters. And because humans are not machines, right, that you could program, how they vote and so on, with the level of activism AFC has, it would be to those who oppose the AFC or those who are not in their corner, it will be to their detriment if they take AFC for granted. So if AFC is dead and you want it to remain there, you then have to constantly get up every day, go in the fields and ensure that there's no resurrection of AFC. But if you are just laid back and say, oh, AFC is dead, whatever, right, you might be in for a rude awakening. That would be my view. And I don't think Nigel Hughes of himself, well, Nigel versus Sherrod, certainly Nigel will bring in a better morale, but Nigel Hughes as a character might not do enough to resurrect AFC to past glory. It's certainly not enough, but it is not to be taken for granted. That would be my view on that.
to both of you, when last you saw this man here? When last you saw this gentleman here?
Oh, God, years have gone by. Many years.
But
It's a pleasure seeing you.
2016 is the last time.
There have to be memories between all three of you.
Definitely, yes.
Because he was quite well received. I campaigned with him, I know.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, yes.
I think that popularity was the whiteness. I keep telling him that.
I would like to hope that was the...
Because wherever this man went, he held the crowd down.
Yes, that is true. That is so true.
But I would like to think it was more because of the approach, because
more of your activism.
Even today. I mean, look, I can have my disagreements with Errol. Okay, that's how we know Errol. Called him as Errol. We have a family connection. Leno and I go way back, and we can have our disagreements, and that is how it is supposed to be.
And still be good comrades or friends or relatives.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
Yep.
Correct.
Right. When Blackwood man come here and gaff, we gaff while the show is going on. David Hines. I think right. I think our politics, yes. I think people like all three of you, the younger generation, I think they have to constantly nip away at that zero sum.
Correct.
People should
absolutely should not be zero sum.
I know from when I was young and knowing Dr. Jagan and Clive Thomas and them, the PNC and WPA and PPP are engaged in official confrontation. But you see those men on Labor Day and those things, they is that they will pass each other on, they didn't say hi. And I think Guyana needs that. Guyana needs another 60 years of that, man, in which, Bellman, Sherrod, Duncan, and PPP guys, when they meet, you should gaff and tantalize each other about Bell, But Gerhard, you heard the presentation of the two persons.
I did. I don't think I need to say I disagree with Errol, and I would continue where Leno left off. I would segue from there.
Well, go for it.
I think Leno's analysis is a good start. Pretty much everything that he said is correct. However, perhaps it could be that I may know Nigel better in the sense that I've worked very closely with him. I was telling you before, where I saw Nigel without blinking offering pro bono representation. I was with Nigel in the Edward when the coca wasn't open. The farmers suffered losses. They protested. The police abused the farmers. And if I recall correctly, the ethnicity there was entirely Indian. And Nigel didn't bat an eyelid. He did what he had to do. And I also know of Nigel's representation of when they had the party protests in the Essequibo Coast, and not to mention Nigel's work in the interior with the land rights issues with the Kawayo and those indigenous. He worked among the indigenous people successfully. And so this is why I would say to you, Leno, from my perspective, and yes, I've heard Freddie say I have not been around for a number of years, that people change, but I have met Nigel again, and honestly, I cannot discern any difference. In fact, I can feel more of a fire. We discussed a lot of issues, and I think
since
Nigel,
you're back,
since I'm back, I think Nigel offers a very national. He comes more as a national leader. And as Leno rightfully said, there is that buzz, there is that excitement. What it will translate to, I don't know. My hope, as I told you, is not combative, not zero-sum politics. In fact, when I read the newspapers of what happened in Parliament recently, I was very happy to read, where both opposition and I'm talking about the traffic, the cameras that they were discussing in Parliament, and where essentially they were, this discourse was civil, it was good, it was on point, And that is what we need. The only thing I would add to that scenario is in the midst of all this road construction and vehicles coming in, we are releasing onto the general public unqualified and underqualified drivers. But that's a different thing. But apart from that, that discourse in Parliament is what I would like to see. And this is why I think Nigel's entry is so important. As Leno noted, the buzz, the excitement. We need vibrant politics in Guyana. We need government and we need opposition, and both must be strong. If we have it on one side too much, then the country will suffer. We need from both sides. And I don't know if I will live to see it, but I would like to see Guyana come to a point where the opposition and government are indistinguishable in terms of ethnicity, that they're all mixed up, but they distinguish themselves in their ideology or their plans for Guyana. And I see us going slowly in that direction. As I said, I'm not here to cuss up and pull down anybody. I think the PPP had a good start. I think the ethnic makeup of the new PPP government is to be complimented. I would discourage people from jumping up and saying about soup drinkers, this and that and whatever. No, because Guyana should come to a point where you can't look at a person and decide that man is PPP or that man is PNC. And that is why, for me, it is important that we have, even if it's a crossover or a new injection for whatever reason, that we have a broadened makeup. And in that vein, I think Nigel's entry into Guyana's politics, and again, I don't want to just focus on the individual.
Re-entry.
Yeah, well, yes, re-entry, however you may term it. It's not just about the individual, but it's about who he can pull together. For example, I would like to see eventually Ralph Ramkaran in such a makeup, and it goes even beyond that, where people can truly feel included.
Go back alphabetically. Charan, so you share the views on your left and on your right?
Freddie, I've listened to my two brothers here, and you know what? Emphasis is being placed on the new leadership, or this new person who's leader of the AFC. What both my friends have missed is that the AFC self-destructed. The AFC, and that's why I said it doesn't matter who leads the AFC now. Nigel, I salute the man. We've been friends for a long time, legal practitioners, we're colleagues. In more ways than one, I have great respect for Nigel Hughes, but he will be remembered by the, and let me use this word carefully, the more educated people who are aware of the part he played in the no confidence. Nobody will forget that. Then when you talk of the leaders of the AFC, the people, and then you mentioned Gerhard, there's this cry about racism. This government has, if I'm not mistaken, my numbers may be slightly off, nine ministers who are from the African nationality. And yet, you have the likes of Rickford Burke, and I'm naming people here because it's a fact. They can't sue me for this. A team came from New York to address the racial configuration of this government and the party, which of course they did not get a hearing. And that I salute President Irfan Ali for. You're coming to tell me that my government is a racist government? When so many African leaders, people are ministers, senior ministers, including Prime Minister, something has to be wrong with their thinking. And so that is something I know I will not live to see that. That racial divide will never end in Guyana. And I'm saying never during my time. I will not live to see that. And so back to the leadership and the AFC. The AFC self-destruct. And I said it earlier, Freddie, on the last program. If APNU does not break away from the AFC, APNU will lose votes because of their affiliation to the AFC. How do you determine that AFC gets 5 seats and APNU got 28 seats, so they get 33 and they'll win the election? That is not happening. AFC, and again I'm saying this, Nigel may present himself as a leader. Why has he chosen to be leader of the AFC? Is a good question people need to have answers to. Is it because he thinks that the AFC is a party to reckon with or can be resurrected? Look at his affiliation to Exxon. What connection does he have to Exxon? And as leader of political party, let us not forget that Trotman, as Minister of Natural Resources then, signing contracts, or should have signed contracts, may have signed contracts, while he was literally the recipient of fancy things given by Exxon. And we don't see a conflict of interest. The people are seeing these things. How do you erase all of that from the AFC? The AFC, again, self-destruct. How do you recognize Ramjatan or Nagamutu as leaders of the AFC who can come to the people and say, look, we are resurrecting the AFC, we want you to support us, tell me what they will get. It might be illegal to throw stones at them, but literally, that is what they should expect if they come out and even think that they can have support from the public. The ordinary man hates with a passion what we did as AFC, and I'm saying we because I was part of that team that formed a coalition and became yes men to the APNU. Anything, everything APNU did, we supported. Couple of things quickly. Juvenile Justice Bill. Age 14 and you can't be liable, you can't be charged criminally. Something's wrong with that. Nowhere in the world you'll have age 14. Our neighbor is 12, British is 10. Why are we 14? That we passed. Hamilton Green's pension bill. We have not moved. At that time, Hamilton Green could have gotten maybe $100,000 as Prime Minister a month. Now he's receiving the salary that Nagamutu is receiving, well, the pension. And we passed all of that. You pick people, you pick things to do that will benefit only a few people individually. Then don't forget Patterson, Cathy Hughes, their activities as AFC leaders. People know these things. People don't want to see them again as leaders. So I'm saying this, and I will say it again. The AFC died a long time ago. They self-destruct. There is very little that can be done to give them any type of life or resurrection. That's my take on it still, Freddie.
Leonard Craig, what we will, a separate question on the strengths. What are his current vulnerabilities?
Nigel as a leader. So I think I mentioned on a previous program that Nigel's more recent activism, you see, Gerhard is talking about things that Nigel's activism when he was here and he went out together with Nigel and all of that, but that is before 2015. But Nigel's recent activism, last 3 years, last 4 years maybe, the world and Guyana saw Nigel's activism in African representation. And that can, in my opinion, can affect his national politics. Not that because he is representing African cause means he is disqualified from representing any other cause, but the lens through which crossover voters will view him will not make him attractive to other voters. We can say, yeah, it might be immature on the part of the voters, but I'm not talking about immaturity and what should be, and that voters should disregard all of that and consider the other things. But I'm talking about what the reality is. The reality is when people see you as an Indian activist, for example, when Afro people see you as that advocacy, they tend to put up a mental block. Similarly, when you're overtly in
representing
African representing East Indians put up a mental block, and that's the realities. I'm not talking about what should be and what could be and what will be in the future and all of that. That's our present reality. And when you look back at the activism, Nigel went to the UN, that UN configuration there, and represented, and almost everything he represented was the government is racial, this is what they do, and they do to black people, black people, black people, black people. And several other things, and several other, we know most of them, man, over the last 3 to 4 years. And all I am seeing in the minds of voters who previously followed AFC or who are capable of crossing over, and mind you, let me just divert a little. If you look at the election results for the last 2 elections, the last 4 elections, which would include 2 local government and 2 general elections, you look at the results, you will realize that both East Indians and Africans, there's a significant amount of people who shift their votes, who are amenable to listening to the other side and shifting their votes. If you look at the results the PPP got in 2020, look at the results the coalition got in 2015, and then look at the 2 local government elections, you'll see there's a standing block on both sides, and then there's a shifting block in the middle that could move left or right. And that shifting block is not likely, in my opinion, the East Indian shifting block, that is not likely, in my opinion, to gravitate towards Nigel because of his more recent activism. And that is an impediment I see on Nigel's leadership. How he will overcome that, there might be ways to overcome. I don't think he has enough time, but there might be ways to mitigate against that in some way or the other, because politics has its ins and outs where those things are concerned. And again, I'm saying the AFC still has some formations all around the country. And I still think those formations can energize little groups around the country that can turn out to be votes. And we should not underestimate that.
Gerhard, I don't think it would be presumptuous of me, but I'm a presumptuous person to ask you about the dialogue with you and him. But you would want to share some of the things you have said to him.
I could, but I mean, both Leno and Errol raised some
that you want to respond
points. Yeah, and I mean, look,
the floor is yours.
I would probably be one of the first to readily concede that a lot happened that wasn't right or could have been done better during the coalition. I told you before, Freddie, I wouldn't sugarcoat that. But again, there were some good things. Also, this thing with this Nigel Matsman and whatever, it has nothing to do with Nigel saying that it was not a majority. He didn't say that. What he said is that it required an absolute majority, and there was a precedent in a case that I think it was in Grenada, if I remember correctly.
Vanuatu.
Right.
South Pacific.
So yeah, but I mean, apart from that, and I mean, I again, like I said, it's not my role to sugarcoat. What I want to see is an expanded politics and to build on what Leno was saying, but also to address Errol's point about, and I did compliment the new PPP administration for being more balanced, or probably the most balanced I think that I've seen in the post-1992 time. But that does not go far enough. And it should not be up in our context to one party unless that party is truly a national party. And this is where it is important for the other parties to come up also and to have a large multi-ethnic makeup and representation, and strong representation, not just rubber stamps. And this is where I believe that what is happening here can evolve. I have a more optimistic view than Leno's in terms of what the AFC can draw. It's not just about what the AFC was, which Errol, I mean, it's not entirely wrong in his analysis.
You must be the only person that calls Charles Errol.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knew me from a long time.
That a lot, that everything is gone, or that it can be come back entirely. And this is why I'm emphasizing that what is happening here should evolve beyond the AFC. It should involve our best and brightest. It should involve people who are there for dialogue and to move things forward. As I said, there are many things here you can easily point to that can be done better. In like, I can tell you right away, I mean, I would take the whole program if I talk about...
Go on.
No, I wouldn't do that. If I talk about traffic, I alluded to us allowing unqualified and underqualified drivers out there. And it's a huge cost on the people, on the Guyanese people, what's going out there. And if you don't impose something like weight restrictions on truckers, you're literally subsidizing that industry, against other road users. Cash grant is a good thing, but that should be formalized into something that is regular, more formal, depositing into people's bank accounts in order for people to get a sense of security and stability. I would actually like us to eventually end up with a basic income in Guyana, in many parts of the world that is being discussed in order to give people a good starting point to develop. These are issues that have to be done inter-party. This is not for one party to jump up and impose. These are things we have to come together with in a consensual manner. And I believe Nigel is key. Is key. Again, it's not just focusing on the individual, but key to reviving that. And yes, a lot has changed, but there's also that memory and that hope that AFC had brought back then. There is still something to build on, and also to address a lot of the points that Errol had made, what CHARRANDASS had made, valid points. And Nigel and Raphael, they will have to answer some of these things on their own. But one answer I can run with from Nigel is going out there, reaching out to people, assessing what went wrong, apologizing where necessary, and planning how to go forward. I think that is a very important step in Guyana's politics. In fact, it is actually unheard of. Because we tend, because of the ethnic politics, to take our people for granted. Whether we do good or bad, we have never actually gone back and say we could have and should have, and we will. And I think that alone is an approach to starting to change our political landscape. And that is how I see it. It is not me here simply advocating on behalf of an individual. It is me here advocating for a general change in our body politic. And again, I alluded to what happened, what I read in Friday's papers, in Parliament. And that's what I'm saying.
What could you take us through the half-man scenario?
Freddie,
what is likely to? How would you, as a lawyer, you've been a lawyer donkey years. I taught you at UG, and that is donkey years ago. So you've been a lawyer. How would you, if somebody says that he's right, Nigel Hughes is right, how would you respond to that?
Freddie, and it was mentioned, we have to have an absolute majority. Absolute majority and simple majority. Where in the world you will have that? 1 over any other number is a majority. I don't know who will disagree with that. Do you want it as an absolute majority? What number then do you have to have over another number to call it an absolute majority? A majority is 1 over any other number. You got 10, I have 11, I have a majority. You got 32, I got 33, it's a majority. 2 of our judges in the Court of Appeal ruled that that's not. a majority.
If I understand it, it wasn't a case where it was being disputed whether it was a majority or not. What was the case is in that particular instance what it required. That was my understanding of it. That notwithstanding, I was just saying that it came from a legal precedent. And Nigel can speak for himself. I'm only saying that, you know, that we need to be a little more nuanced when we are presenting things, especially, as I said, you know, to form something that is more cohesive. And yes, look, I do agree there were things that went wrong. I wouldn't think I alluded, not alluded, I told you on the show the last time, in the Sugar Belt, that was handled badly. Very badly. Notwithstanding, you can present strong economic arguments. It should have been done differently, or could have been done differently. Investors could have been brought in at that point in time. There could have been a phasing. There could have been really retraining, you know, because especially what is going to happen in an oil economy. There were many different approaches we could have taken rather than the termination of the workers at that time. Notwithstanding, there were vast economic pressures to do so. Because we, you know, it is more complex than that.
Gerhard, back to the numbers.
Yes, you cut him.
Sorry.
Okay.
No, I just meant that.
Yeah, that's how I think it's a discussion.
Right. And I meant that it's not really, I can't really dispute that. I can only say from what I read at the time, you know, that a president.
All right, let's take the numbers. Absolute majority. We will deal with absolute majority. You have, in Trinidad, they had 36 seats in their parliament for many, many years, all the way with 1818 so often. Good? This Vanuatu case,
it was an equal number.
Even number of seats.
It wasn't the unequal number.
If you take what was presented, you have to divide by 2. So you have a half. In a 65-seat parliament, you got 32 and a half. And 32 and a half, you divide by 2. Then you're going to plus 1. You can't add 1 to one side. You will have to add it to the other side. Now, here's what we have. 32 and a half, and you add 1, you get 33 and a half. And then you add 1 to the other side, you get 33 and a half. You end up with 67. Our parliament has 65 seats. How come you're going to get 65 or 67 seats now to discuss this absolute majority? If that is not stupidity, what is? Now, so when you have an even number, you divide by 2 and you will add 1. Which side do you add the 1 to? You'll still end up with even numbers, same number on both sides. And that is the part that I cannot up to today understand, why you divide by 2 any number and add 1 to get what? An absolute majority? 1 over any number is a majority. And that should have been the ruling. That should have been the decision that should have been taken in relation to the results of our no confidence vote in Parliament. Justifiably so, the Speaker did the right thing to declare the no confidence validly passed in Parliament. But we know the story very well. And that, Freddie, you know, if in a relationship, husband and wife, for example, if the man is found cheating and he admits to the wife that he did cheat, she will never, ever forget that. No matter what. I forgive you, honey. I forgive you, honey. And, oh, baby, it's not going to happen again. Okay, I forgive you. She will never forget it. And in what happened for us, or with us as AFC, the people, some of the youngsters don't really care, and I shouldn't say don't really care. They're not into politics with a strong bond or view, so they wouldn't pay attention. But a lot of the people who supported the AFC locally and abroad will never forget what we did as AFC. And so that is why I'm saying the support base there totally wiped out. You don't have a few even. You couldn't have a man stronger than the AFC. Well, I shouldn't say that. One of the strongest supporters of the AFC was Abel Sitaram. No, you might say things, but Abel doesn't even want to see.
Just like
Well, yeah, you know. But again, I'm just picking one individual who, and my good friend from Linden, Edwin Rutherford.
Yeah.
You know,
former member parliament. You know, we talked about things, and then let me say this quickly. There is a principled individual who was with the AFC, Dominic Gaskin, the son-in-law of former President David Granger. Dominic was the first to say, we lost the election, throw in the towel. Did that happen?
Did that happen, Freddie? That did not happen because other factors came into play. And Dominic Gaskin, his view, everything that that man said, you have to respect. But few people.
It was very unfortunate, everything that happened. But like I said, if you go honestly and you dissect it, as I said, it is not in my interest to see everything destroyed. Things can be rebuilt. It remains to be seen. It remains to be seen where it lands. I mean, we can't sit here, you know, you have a more outright negative. Leno is kind of saying there could be something, and I think it could be something more. But it all depends how it will evolve. It all depends how the people will receive. You know, and look, and we're talking about even in recent times, Nigel took that Dharamlal case. I would say, I mean, it's my personal perspective at some personal risk. But it also goes to show, as what we're saying, that, you know, it's not just about African representation. And how I know Nigel, it is what is most pressing at that point in time that he will represent. And you can be for African issues without being against Indian. In the same manner that I have, when I left the PPP, I did not leave my Indianness behind. I am very proud of my Indian background, how I grew up. I mean, the majority of my family is Indian on both sides through my marriage and everything. I cannot be anti that. And when I speak, I try to speak for all Guyanese as best as I can, especially any Guyanese that I feel are being, for want of a better word, oppressed in one way or another, is how I see it. And it is also why I'm not here simply coming with a naive perspective, oh, this is the next thing to slice bread. But we have to go forward. We have to evolve. We have to learn from our mistakes. And there's too little, we don't have that much of an evolved politics in Guyana to say we have a wide range of people involved. A lot of people are staying out of it. And what we have to work with and make it better.
Gerhard, you mentioned something that I would like to touch on.
There's a man on this panel, you know.
I am just taking it in. But I got a quick comment on the...
Let's hear you then.
On the... thing about the math, something that you wouldn't see in the news or you may not have heard prior. I was in a committee room when questions were being raised about the numbers. And I remember distinctly, and I probably even have it in writing in an email.
Find it.
No. It's not something I would share. It still remains thing. But the point I'm making here is both myself and Dominic said to the committee that, look, this thing about these numbers and 33 and a 1/3 men or half or whatever doesn't seem strong at all. Our strongest argument is to argue against the actions of CHARRANDASS.
Right.
That would have been our strongest argument, that, hey, this man know that if he's going against the House, he is supposed to tell his leader, man, I can't thing and resign or whatever. And let us concentrate our energies at torpedoing that in our legal arguments. So we're wasting time over here. And I think myself and Dominic were the only two people who had that perspective that look, I think we're wasting our time going down this road. Even when the judges gave that interpretation.
Which one? Court of Appeal or
the Court of Appeal? No. The Court of Appeal here.
The Court of Appeal upheld it. CCJ struck it down.
Yeah. So when the Court of Appeal didn't uphold it because the lower court didn't say 33 and
the lower court accepted 33.
No.
The court.
Yeah, the High Court.
The Court did, yeah. The Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal rejected and said you need more than 33.
2-1.
CCJ said 33 is a majority.
That was a lesson in mathematics for the Court of Appeal.
Oh, you mean 33?
Yeah.
In the Court of Appeal,
it was a 2-1
No, but we're saying the same thing. We're saying the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, when the Court of Appeal made that decision saying 33 is not a majority, I was surprised. because I thought they would have had some sort of arrangement around the acts of CHARRANDASS, that he knew ahead of time, he knew what was his
In
responsibility.
other words, they would have thrown it out because of CHARRANDAS.
Yes,
Not
that
the
is
half-
what I thought.
not the half men.
Not because of the numbers.
Not
Not the
because
half
of the
men.
number. And I was surprised, right? And anybody knew that once that gets to the CCJ, it would have been thrown out. And I really thought that the lawyers would have spent more research, more time, more energy, more focus on saying that his vote wasn't valid. And that is where I thought it would have gone. But I do not have enough legal training to make or to sway any committee left or right or whatever the case is.
Right.
But
And, yeah. I mean, sorry, neither do I. And I didn't really want to go down this road at this point. I was just making that. But from what my understanding is that there was some precedent, and that's how it went forward. That's all. I just wanted to say that it was not just as simplistic as we.
The numbers thing.
Right. Because I mean, it's a legal issue, and that's all I wanted to bring to the table.
Point,
but I just wanted to say that in the context and to focus on why I feel that yes, these things need to be dissected, of course, and we need to do better. We need to make sure that that these things are not repeated in one way or another. But as I said, I have had my disappointments, of course, but I am refusing to give up hope. And Guyana is there. Lots of there.
You mean give up hope for the AFC or for the nation?
No, for the nation, for the nation. And this is why I'm seeing this in a holistic manner. I'm not zeroing on anyone. I'm trying my best. On the one hand, not to appear that I'm idolizing, and I'm being very deliberate here about not tearing down. I'm just saying that I think we have people who are driven, people who can do things, people who can get people involved, get Guyanese, as Lena was saying earlier, this morale boosting, this excitement. It can only be good. The more we are involved in our destiny, the more we are involved in what is happening here, the better it would be for all of us. And no one can disagree that we can do better. And and that is the whole crux. If you extend what I'm saying, it can end in any number of scenarios. If the AFC does better, as I think it could, we could end up in a minority government position, which is not bad. It forces everyone to work at. If AFC ends up getting a broader coalition, let's say Ralph Ramsaroop comes in, that could be another result. There could be then a huge national coalition. There could even be coalition. There could even be the possibility of the PPP and the PNC working together. It's a lot of things in flux.
I'm Ramsaroop even want to hear about going on with another,
he can
forming a group with another party?
I'm just saying that as a symbol because he is a respected Guyanese. I'm just using that because I don't want to just. This is someone who is already in the public domain, somebody who has already articulated a number of good things, and I'm just using that as an example of people, that I would like to see going forward. Of course, ultimately, the very best thing at this point in time, given the Venezuela situation, is simply a national government, but it may not be doable. The next best thing is to have a strong government and strong opposition that are multi-ethnic in their makeup.
Gerhard,
before we go back alphabetically, you had intercepted him. You want to say what you have to say quickly?
Right. When you were looking at the legality, and it's a point that they should have pursued. One thing, I was sitting holding a Canadian citizenship in Parliament when I should not have been. But so too were 5 other members.
Okay.
But that being done, I spoke to Ramjatan before and he said, it's okay, man, you're not the only one. And then I took the seat. But the speaker limitation expires in 28 days. The speaker had 28 days to identify anyone who should not be sitting or should not have been sitting in Parliament and then have them removed for whatever reason. Back to your question. And the other part of it, that's illegality there. The fact that I voted while as a holding dual citizenship, that was valid because limitation expired in 28 days, after 28 days. So I was not the only one. And then if you had gone there, you'd have to remove so many people and so many votes, legislation that were voted on would have to be reversed and whatever. But the other part of it is the legality of my vote was questioned and then overruled. But the legality of my sitting or not reporting or addressing my discontent is something they should have pursued. Because the list that I'm from, I have a leader of the list who would then Harold Latchman. If I had any issue, I should have reported to him, at least to him, and say, look, I don't like this, I don't want this, this is not right, and I have some discontent with this, and as you said, have me removed from Parliament, or remove myself if I don't like what is going on.
But don't go the half-man route.
But the half-man route. And again, another thing, Gerhard, when you mentioned Nigel Hughes represented Nigel Damlal, he's a lawyer. Lawyers are what you call a cab rank rule. We represent anybody, like cab rank meaning a taxi on the road, you pass, you'll pick up anybody, have to pick up you, or not have to, but you flag them down, they'll pick you up. Lawyers are bound, but not really bound, but that's generally the practice. You represent anybody. But I'll tell you something else. That allegation, the accusation was made. It is still sitting like a pendulum over Nigel Damlal's neck. That girl can come back next year or this week, next week, and say the same thing.
But what I would take out from that is precisely what you're saying. If he's trained as a lawyer to represent any and everybody, it is the same thing that I project in a more national way. You know, and the other thing,
now, political leaders now.
you were saying about,
he's transporting law into politics.
Exactly.
It's two different
totally different.
But I've seen it. That's the thing.
No. But here, in politics,
you have
as powerful and as persuasive as you may be. You are from an organization, and the organization most times is bigger than the person,
than the individual. Yes,
and you have supporters that come to you every day and tell you, man, why you going up? So you are caught in a way to satisfy your more immediate supporters and reaching out to the larger support base. And let me just tell you something that happened in the last government, in the coalition government. In terms of political strategy, they were weak, very low, disengaged in terms of political strategy. They were just trying. I don't know what they were trying to do. As CHARRANDASS said, they self-destruct. But I remember clearly we were in a meeting, and I said to the meeting, here, look, you got PPP down for the count. And when they're down, don't make them get up at all. And one of the ways to prevent the PPP from getting up, you got to go and poach the membership.
Yes.
You have to go and drag people out. Even some, once they're above the line of unsavory.
You're right, correct.
Right?
Yeah.
You go and drag them out. Bring them, and you are going to be stronger. I heard comments, especially from people in the PNC, it's we time. And I'm telling you, in a small internal meeting, they refuse to even attempt. And in my opinion, right, that is bad politics.
Right, that is correct, Leno, but by the same token, it is how the other side also feels about the PPP. You understand? It's the same ethnic base, that we're going back to, which is what I'm saying needs to be broken. And to point at it on one side, it also occurs on the other side. It's like when Freddie asked me if I think that that the bloc of 39% Indians, if Nigel could appeal to them as a bloc, it's the same question we can ask. Right. Could the PPP appeal to the bloc of 30% Africans? And I get what you're saying, that within those parties you have that sense of insularity, and this is where the theory, just allow
me to complete the point.
Go ahead.
That is what I'm saying, in that if Nigel is leading a group of people that feels that way, I'm not saying that is a fact now, but I'm saying if he's leading a group of people that feels that way, he has got to dodge the raindrops with respect to having a broad mentality, because his immediate people might not allow it. And that is a reality in Guyanese politics, and as you said, on both sides. Right?
Yes.
I have made comments on Freddie's program and on other occasions that is complimentary of the PPP. I have done that. And when you look at the comments below, you see some people saying, I admire what this man is saying. People must be mature enough to and he will do well in the PPP. And you saw known PPP people below saying, "Oh, we ain't want tea in the PPP.
Yes,
we ain't want tea."
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Trying to say.
And so a leader has to.
Correct. I was only,
navigate.
Right. I was only trying to. I wasn't in any way disputing what you're saying, but I was just trying to give it in the context that it happens too often on the two sides where it's polarizing. And this is why, for me, there's the importance of the third force re-emerging, if it could. And like I said, my optimism is more than what this table shares, but my optimism is also geared, as I said, in how my dad brought me up. I mean, at an early age, this whole thing of a united Guyana, and it's something that has always driven me. It's something that has driven my
Your dad was good. Your dad was a fine motivational man.
Excellent.
Right.
Or your Ramsaroop is one of my proteges, you know that.
Thank you, Fred. It's good to hear.
It doesn't mean you like him.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't by no means. But I'm just saying that what he said stood with me and is what I am trying to do. And this is why I'm trying not to be combative in any way. I'm just trying to give what I can in such a way so that we have this atmosphere in which we can go forward better. And the same token, when Errol was saying, that it was...
CHARRANDASS, nobody knows the man is
when CHARRANDASS was saying, literally almost, that there was nothing good. There will be some things that people can take away. The perception of Guyana in terms of corruption, public services, DA coming to Guyana, the establishment of the Procurement Commission. I mean, these were some things, for what it's worth, like I said, I would be the first to say of the missteps, but not everything was a misstep also. And you had better performance with public infrastructure. We had less blackouts at the time. There were things that were done better. In some ways, we had better qualified people. In other ways, we faltered. Right? And Georgetown continues to be like a political football. And this is why I'm saying that we really need to do better, because the person who bears the brunt of this, as you were saying, that you've seen politicians who oppose in parliament rub shoulders and are fine. But the people who bear the brunt of our politics are the ordinary people. The ordinary people who lose their lives on the roads, the ordinary people who have little certainty in their lives, sometimes don't know, where the next meal may come from.
Sharon, what I don't need to tell the viewers how long you've been around, so you must know. What's the likely scenario in 2025? How do you see it?
Freddie, I'll touch briefly on what Leno mentioned just now. How do you literally garner the people who are sort of not even fence-sitter, they're tilted to one side? What is happening right now happened before. The PPP have picked some strong PNC people, and they believe, as they did before, that these people have crossed the floor. So they took a landslide in the local government election. These people, and I can name them, but I will not. I can name one at least, an individual in Amsterdam. I'll leave his name out for now because he's well known. Crossed the floor. This man was beside me in Amsterdam when I had my office there. Paid all the bills for the PNC office, supported, and he's still doing it. But he crossed the floor. What you're getting, and to support or to address your question, my friend, the PPP is trying to win or to have these people come towards them by giving them now contracts, and I'm going specifically on contracts. But what is happening there? PNC diehard supporters saying this man is getting 5 and 6 contracts and we are not getting any. So again, You cut your face, you spoil the looks. What they're doing is hoping to win these people. Local government, they might have crossed the floor to get contracts. And I'm only saying that. But you are, by giving it to them who have crossed. It happened before and you did not get them in general election. It did not happen.
But
they are strong supporters of their political party.
I don't share that view because if you look at the 2023 local government election, they were marked crossovers towards the PPP.
For local government.
For local government.
Happened in 2020, this
18?
recent one. Yeah, the 2023, right, yeah.
So in 2023, for example, and I believe those are ordinary, everyday people who have expressed a preference for the PPP and a preference that they did not express prior. The thing is with Guyanese voters, and as I said, there is a block of Afro-Guyanese voters and a block of Indo-Guyanese voters.
Will never change.
There's a block who will never change, and then there is a block which is much, much smaller. It might just be, a shifting block. It might just be about 18% on both sides.
In my view, it's widening, but yeah, I largely
right. It might be just about 18%, but it is sufficient to take a government out and to establish another one.
Correct.
It is sufficient on both sides.
I agree. And yeah.
As to whether it's widening, we'll have to see in this election.
Right.
I believe
that's what the AFC was. We were that.
Good. So, and another thing, a point I made on this show previously is that do not take the Afro-Guyanese support of the AFC for granted, in the sense that, let me explain. The majority of Afro-Guyanese who supported the AFC were not necessarily attracted to PNC.
Okay. Yeah.
All right? And they can easier shift to support the PPP than the PNC. They were not necessarily PNC supporters. And now that the AFC mess up, some people use the F word before up, but now that the AFC mess up, there are a large group of Afro-Guyanese voters who are still wondering where am I going to put my eggs?
Where to go, yeah.
And they can be attracted to the PPP.
The operator said our time has come. Let me ask each one of you, which particular, you've known each other a long time. You know him so long, you call him Errol. I've known him for more than 5 years and I don't know but Errol. What memory you have of each other in those halcyon days of the AFC? What memory you have of him?
You know what? As a strong supporter of the AFC, and I am saying this of my good friend Leno also, we worked because we saw this AFC.
Answer the question. What memory you have of him?
Good memories. Very good memories.
What memory you have of Leno?
Leno's analysis always, we would sit and we would have those conversations, very frank conversations, very open conversations, even though I disagree in some of the finer points, but largely Leno's analysis
we gotta go.
What I remember, but if I would just say Errol at the time, because it was that familiarity, and what it brought was that we went against the grain at a time when it was very difficult to do so. And there's still, even today, it still haunts me having gone against the grain. And this is why I labor it's not really going against the grain. It is trying to get something that was, in Guyana in 1953.
I bet viewers and you, Errol, don't know what the two of them have in common.
Well, he
lived in Germany.
And this one
he lived in
probably
Germany.
Born in Germany.
And this one living in Germany. and I have something in common with that. His father was educated in Germany and taught me a little bit of German.
Oh.
So I know but Guten Tag. But so we gotta go. I hope when he comes back soon, we can do this again. You were looking at an analysis of Nigel Hugh's leadership of the AFC, and where does that go from here? Our panelists with GERHARD, RAMSAROOP, Leonard Craig, and CHARRANDASS Persaud Foundation members of the AFC, they've all gone their separate ways. Have a pleasant rest of Monday evening. Catch you later. Bye-bye.